Yeah. Welcome back to the All Purpose Pod for an All Purpose Life, wherever you are today and however you are listening to the Call Me Mr. You, the podcast. We thank you for making us a part of your morning, your day, and your week with your weekly mirror check before you change the world. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, even LinkedIn, YouTube, and the Twitter. Thanks for downloading, subscribing to our show wherever you enjoy your podcast. Do the same with Football Talk with Bo, please. You can find me up at Football Talk WBO. How you doing this morning, brother?
Excellent. How are you, man?
Awesome, man. Awesome. Great weekend, I guess.
Absolutely. Got to hang out with some buddies up at Birch Bay. If you haven't been out there, it is a beautiful area.
This is in upstate Washington?
Yeah, it's actually really close to the Canadian border.
Ooh, was it cold?
Oh, no. It's 70, 78 over the weekend? 75, 78?
That's nice.
Yeah.
We're not seeing that kind of stuff around here even at nighttime. We're not even getting that here at night. But I want to put some thoughts out before we get into the show. You know, I've been thinking about the stick and the carrot. That's an approach that's used to kind of inspire performance. Parents use it, coaches, executives, ministers, even teachers use it. I was waiting for my wife to pick up from an event last week, and I saw this lady training her puppy. Right, I'm just sitting there watching. I had nothing else to do. I was just sitting there waiting, and every time that she tried to entice the puppy to sit, she would say, "Sit," and he would just resist. You know what I'm saying? Sit. He would sit down and he was just squeal, like this loud, high-pitched squeal because he didn't want to sit. But because sitting wasn't one part of what he wanted to do. But in her mind, in the owner's mind, sitting makes the puppy better. You know, and that wild, undisciplined side of his nature was what the owner was trying to curb. Why? Just so the puppy can become a dog that can be adaptable and function in any environment. I think about that kind of stuff, not just in sports, but also in life. A former baseball outfielder who went unnamed in this article I was reading, but he said, I used to like playing baseball until I started getting paid for it. The carrot works once in a while, but it doesn't have a long-term impact. Too many carrots can debilitate the ability to be motivated. You know, if a person retains an internal reward for doing a task, anything that represents the external reward weakens that motivation. Too many carrots can make the person who's the intended receiver tired of carrots. You know, they get hooked on positive reinforcement. You know, I mean, you ever seen those kids that only do good if they get a treat or get good test scores and they think ice cream is going to be at the end of the rainbow? This is not about Pavlov's dog, but the comparisons are kind of there, you know? Too many carrots get you to a place where your child will perform a household task like cleaning their room. Their first response, especially nowadays, is, what do I do if I do that? What if I get? If I clean my room, what do I get out of it? A clean room and self-respect.
Yeah.
How about that? You know, over time, those kids becomes adults. They want to be rewarded for their work that they haven't done yet. They function on parquet floors and football fields, executive offices and boardrooms. They want to have what they actually haven't earned. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They don't want to.
And it's funny because it already happens in basketball. They get the $100 million contract. They haven't stepped on the floor yet.
Yeah. And there's no for me, there's no impetus for them to walk in discipline because they already have what technically, I can't even say that they earned it per se. It's just that's what they're being awarded for being, I guess, in the right place at the right time, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? And it's a weird dichotomy. I see it in sports a lot, as you just mentioned, but also in life too. You know, those things that we get rewarded for, sometimes we don't appreciate them very much. Like the baseball player was saying, he didn't want to. He loved baseball so much until he got paid for it. Then it became something different. It became a different animal. Now it's like, okay, now your focus is on this and that and this, and the love of baseball kind of just fades to the background in the list of priorities. I mean, I've seen guys, and I won't talk about the Yankees because that's not what I want to do today. That's a rabbit hole I can't go down today. I'm not in a good mood about that, just to be real. But I've seen guys dog it running the bases, dog it chasing pop flies. I mean, it's like, that's not the love of baseball. That's something different. That's just comfortability with already having a contract, knowing your family is set, knowing generations already taken care of. Maybe it kind of behooves them to, you know, take a little day off, take a little break.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what happens in sports. It happens in life too. We do it in our natural lives too, in our regular lives too. We have something that we think is a comfort, and what do? We kind of chill, take our feet off of the gas. Don't work as hard. Don't grind as hard. Let's segue into this real quick. I think you understand this part. Even with us doing podcasting, great example, right? Now, you and I have discussed this stuff many times before about the tendencies of the folks that we're talking to about our show, wanting them to support us, subscriptions on YouTube, all that kind of stuff like that. Now, we know there's a lot of people out there who do podcasts that they got different motivations.
Yep.
They care more about the numbers than do the people. That's not who I'm talking to today. Excuse me. But you get that, right? It's like once you have those numbers, whether it be 10,000 subscribers on Facebook or 25,000 on YouTube, whatever it is, once you have that, there's a tendency there to begin to take your foot off the gas and just kind of just forget about the love that got you there. And now podcasting becomes a job, and a so-called business rather than something that you just love. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, I mean this with no hyperbole whatsoever. This is the highlight of my week. If I have to miss this day at 9 a.m. on Mondays, my life's not gonna be over, but there's something missing.
For sure.
It means for me to be here with you and to talk to the people.
Mm-hmm.
It matters to me, So it's like when it's not happening, I miss it, Even when Monday passes, I'm still recording episodes. You can see them on YouTube.
Yep.
You're doing the same thing during the week, but it's not the same when we're not doing this. And it's like allowed to die. Go ahead.
And like for me, this is a great start to my Monday morning because here on the West Coast it's 6 a.m. right? So it's exactly how I start my day. I get up, I do a little bit of writing, have some coffee, run through the shower, jump on screen. It's like, oh, okay, that's my favorite way to start the week right there. Is just get in and get rolling.
You look so clean today, Bo. But that's good though. I mean, there's just something about it. It's like, I guess I'm just talking out loud to the people who maybe are listening to have podcasts. Don't let the love of podcasting die. Whatever it is that drives you and you just love it and you care about it, I don't care. Even if it is sport. A sport you don't even play, but if you love it that much, don't let it die.
Well, and I think on that podcasting front, there's a little bit of a difference just because once you get your subscribers, I wouldn't necessarily say that they are taking their foot off the gas, but the focus definitely changes because then once you have those, ultimately we're all trying to make it so that we can do this for a living, right?
Correct.
So then your focus does shift a little bit from the subscriber gathering to then advertiser gathering, right? So I think your carrot actually moves, right? Like the goalposts move on that particular front. And then, it's one of those, once you've established that, then I think you're right. Then I think somebody, might take their foot off the gas, although you do definitely risk losing subscribers and advertisers, whatever, depending on what it is you do. But I don't know. I guess I always view it a little bit differently because I look at it as if someone's going to take the time out of their day to tune into my show, then I need to put the best show I can out there. And it's disrespectful to their time if I don't.
Copy that. When I say fill the gas, perhaps I should have rephrased that, but just
just coasting, right? Like they're not necessarily striving to be better, but they're not trying to get worse either, right? Like they're happy with where they are and they just kind of like try and hang out in that spot. And I mean, ultimately that I can't say there's anything wrong with it per se. It just, you're just not going to go further.
Yeah. I think one of the things I wanted to say there in its place was just about the shifting focus,
Yep.
Because the reason why you started doing this, that's one of the things. If anybody is in the psychological counseling realm, whatever it is, they always talk about, okay, why did you start doing this? I mean, I was a certified business life. I guess I'm still considered certified. I guess I don't know if it ran out. Certified business life coach.
Okay.
And personal life coach. I was a life coach in families too. and I had a certification for this, and I was doing that. And one of the things I always asked the question was, why did you start doing this? What was the reason that you began this venture? Why did you start doing this? Because after years go by, you start dealing with overhead, trying to stay in the black and not in the red, and all of those things.
Yep.
The purpose of why you started it gets lost in all of that stuff, all that minutia. All of the vendors and customers and promotions and marketing and blah 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 blah. It gets lost.
Yeah.
So it's good to ask yourself, why did you start this? So I'm talking about the shift in focus. That's what I mean.
So
why did you start doing this?
So I'll jump on the couch real quick because I was a business owner, right? So for me, because I owned an automotive shop, I owned a HVAC company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I enjoy the building. I like the building of a business. So I like doing the marketing and meeting all the people and creating those relationships and all of that. Like I enjoy that. Once my businesses got into, year 5, 6, whatever, then you're less in that mode because you're sort of established at that point, right? Most businesses, if you make it past year 5, are going to be successful typically. Yeah. And so beyond that point, now you're maintaining and you're trying to, make sure everything continues the work that it's supposed to be. And it becomes, how to word this and not sound like a douche. It becomes less enjoyable, we'll say.
Okay.
Because then you are wrapped into exactly that, all the overhead and dealing with the city and the state and all of the bullshit that comes with that.
Monotonous was the word you wanted, perhaps? Was it monotonous?
Yeah, like it's just not it's not enjoyable anymore because you don't get a focus on the parts that you enjoyed focusing on to build to that.
Sure.
Because you've kind of built it to a spot where you don't necessarily have the ability to do more than you're already doing. Like my automotive shop was a prime example of that. I would be scheduled over a month out, right? So it's not like I could be driving more work in because I just couldn't physically get it done anyway. So all of a sudden you're no longer in that relationship building and stuff like that because you don't really have time to bring new work in unless I was going to find a bigger shop and more employees and all of that. So, so then your focus really just becomes, the overhead and making sure everybody's good and the scheduling is okay. And, all of the just admin part of it that, let's be honest, isn't the most fun when it comes to business ownership. And it makes you kind of step away from the relationship building and the marketing portion and stuff like that. Cause the marketing really doesn't matter as much anymore because you couldn't do more work, even if it came in.
Excellent. Yeah. I definitely want to stay on the idea of performance being inspired. Because I asked a question on our social media platforms a little earlier. Mm-hmm. Think about maybe it's been out about 3 days or so. What's your primary motivator for getting, for challenging yourself? Mm-hmm. Are you self-motivated? I know some people have a fear of failure, a fear of missing out, FOMO, as they call it, being mocked by peer groups, disappointing loved ones, or not fulfilling the promise you made to yourself or to your mom or dad or whoever. Are you self-motivated? What inspires you to perform? I mean, I know we talk sports a lot and it's definitely applicable, but you can find it anywhere in life. What inspires you to perform? Because whatever that is, hopefully it's a love of whatever it is you're doing. I talk to folks in the business realms, excuse me, quite often, and talk about how they love their job and whatnot. And a lot of times, to be honest, I don't really believe them.
No.
I think they love what they get from the job. I don't believe they love the job at all because their job said, you know what? This month, we can't pay you. Yeah. So there's going to be 2 checks you're not going to get this month. I guarantee that love is going to be almost non-existent.
Yep.
You need Sherlock Holmes to find that love because it's going to be gone. So it's like I don't believe that. I think we got to look a little deeper than passion. When I hear that word, honestly, I cringe. If you guys are listening to love the word passion, don't mean to offend you, but I ain't feeling it. The word passion means nothing to me at this point in time because it's not what people think it is. or what it's represented to be, because passion, it might get you out of the bed a couple of days, but not for 5 years, not for 10. You have to have some purpose, because passion it's not going to last long enough. I mean, look at it in the course of a marriage. We've been married 27 years. I mean, and we got fire in our marriage. So, but every day we renew that. We take tangible steps to do that every single day, every single week, every single month. It ain't just sitting there from 1996 and it's just still burning because of what happened then. You got to put some wood on that fire. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, absolutely.
I know you know what I'm talking about. You got to put wood on that fire. That passion ain't got nothing to do with it. It's about purpose. It's about commitment. What we said we would do and standing up to that. Now, unfortunately, we don't always see that in sports. So I want to ask Football Talk with Bo a couple of questions as we move into the episode for today. First question, Bo. Are you self-motivated or do you need a little help?
So I think that is kind of a multi-layered question there, because am I self-motivated in stuff I don't care about? No. I'm sure not. But when it comes to, like, when I was playing football, was I self-motivated? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I wanted to be better than the guy standing across from me. Okay. So I had a very clear goal in mind. And so, you know, when I was playing ball, I would go, I'd hit the gym at 4:30 in the morning. I'd be there for about 2 hours. And then I'd have a 3-hour practice later in the day. And then I'd hit the gym again for another hour that night. And I did that 5 days a week. And so you kind of have to be self-motivated to some degree to make that happen. Now, when it comes to, you know, something like, I got to go out there and mow my grass. It's like, well, I feel like those grass blades might actually start getting some flowers on them. I should probably just go do that now. And, you know, so there's levels to it, right? Okay. So if it's something that you do, even though you don't necessarily love the word, if you are passionate about it, it's something that you love, like a sport or whatever. I mean, there's the people that love gardening, for example. They will get up at the crack of dark and go trim and water and do all the things they're supposed to do to their yard. And more power to you. If you ever want to stop by mine, come on out. But yeah, I mean, so it just depends on where it is, you know, your interests lie on the level of, you know, kind of follow through, I would say. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think there's different levels to it, but yeah, when it came to football, yeah, I was absolutely self-motivated, or in the business realm, right? Because everything is so intensely scheduled based in most industries. You have to be somewhat self-motivated because you have deadlines that you have to hit, and nobody's making you hit those deadlines other than you just don't want to get yelled at by angry customers. But you know, whether it was in HVAC doing installs or whatever, or, you know, on automotive, getting their cars back to them at the right time. You know, all of these things they're deadlines that aren't really enforced by anything. So you do have to have some motivation on your own to make sure that all of those pieces are moving correctly.
That totally makes sense. In the sports realm, so were you saying that you were self-motivated because you want to be better than the next person, or was there another reason why you motivate yourself to get out of bed and do all those things? Was there another goal?
Well, I mean, the most underlying thing there is you want to win a ring. You want hardware. And so the way to do that is to be the best, and then to help the rest of your guys on your team be the best. So there was like in practice, a lot of the receivers on our team did not love practice against me because I played at full speed all week. So if you were lining up against me, I was going to jam you. I was going to hit you. Like we were going to battle even during practice. We weren't, you know, we weren't allowed to tackle you, but I mean, I'd put a hand in your chest real quick.
That makes sense.
So
I mean, for me, when it comes to self-motivation, I'd love to say that, you know, it was about me and my so-called personal goals, things that kind of benefited me. Mm-hmm. Perhaps this is some people see it as a weakness. I've heard people think it was a weakness in my character, but that's not how I felt.
Sure.
I always felt like it was a greater picture for everything that I was doing. Even when in the realm of podcasting, I mean, we've been doing this since the pandemic started. This is, I think, going into year 3 in September. One of the reasons why, I mean, like I said, there's so many podcasters around us, especially on Twitter. It's almost like everybody and even their grandma got a podcast about cats. I mean, it's rampant at this point in time, and it's like some of the substances is kind of missing from some of that. But I mean, I don't do this because I want to be the number one podcaster in the world. I want to be up there with whoever the number one person is. I'm blanking out on names.
I think it's
like
Pat at this point.
I'm honestly, from my heart, man. That's not my goal. I want to have 5-digit subscribers. Of course, I want that. I want to reach people, in places where they may not normally hear my voice. Yeah, but those goals don't. That's not where I'm at. I want to impact people. I want to make folks think about things a little bit more competently, and maybe perhaps create better habits. And I feel like if a neighborhood, if a family listen to this show and they create good habits, that can become a neighborhood that creates good habits. That can become a city and a state that creates good habits. That becomes a nation. I got a master plan here, man. It ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm just trying to just help make things better. That's all the show is really supposed to be all about. You know what I'm saying? But that's what the motivation is. I don't think about, what, I can have a nice mansion and stuff. I don't even think about that kind of stuff, especially not as it pertains to the podcast. But let's jump in a little bit. You have any other thoughts about self-motivation in sports or otherwise? Any other thoughts?
No, I mean, the only thing I can say is no matter what it is you're doing, you do have to have some goal in mind, because then you could have all the motivation in the world. You don't have anything you're driving towards. So you do have to have either some personal or, professional goals, whatever. You got to have a clear path to it. And then, so this is one thing that served me well that I think people get hung up on a lot is a lot of times, even if you have a goal out there, right? Stuff happens because at the end of the day, the universe looks at your goal and then chuckles and is like, oh, let's see what you do here. And so you get obstacles all the time. And a lot of people end up getting hung up on the obstacle that's itself. And one of the things that I've always done, and it's probably why I stay really calm when, things happen, is the obstacle comes, whatever happens. And my immediate thought process has nothing to do with whatever obstacle just got dropped in my lap. It's always, okay, well, how do I get around that? Like my brain immediately goes to, how do I get back on track? It doesn't focus on whatever obstacle just became in my way. So like one of the things that always pops in my head, my response wise, is my wife blew up the engine in our Escalade, and she's Italian. She has, that loud Italian father that'll, go off the handle about the smallest thing. Right. So she's like, oh yeah, something happened. She confused the low oil light with the change oil light, and smoked the motor. Right. And whatever. And so I was at a buddy's house, and she's like, oh yeah, it made a funny noise. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll check it out when I get home. And I get in the driveway, I hit the key, and the engine's just like, knock, knock, knock. And I was like, oh, okay, that thing's smoked. And I walk in the house, and I was like, oh, it's, yeah, the engine is toast. And she's looking at me like I'm going to yell at her. Right. And I'm just like, I mean, that's unfortunate. And that was it. Like that's all the longer I thought about that particular obstacle in my life. Is just like, okay, well, I'll deal with that. And then I'm back to back on the track of where I'm supposed to be. So if there's anything that I can, give to the listeners, it's make sure you're not spending very much time looking at the obstacle itself. Get your focus back on whatever your goal is, because there's going to be more obstacles. And the longer you focus on them, the further away you get from your goal.
Gotcha. I love that. Okay. Yeah. I'm learning so much about you, man. I love Italian food, so I gotta get out there and give me some of that. Yeah, I love that stuff a lot. Maybe perhaps too much, but I love the thoughts about staying focused on the goal and not the obstacle. I mean, it's not revolutionary what you said. I mean, something that we should be doing. I love to hear that people are actually thinking like that, because I don't hear that very often. And I'm in professional circles and stuff, and I hear it there, but outside of that, I don't hear it very often, even in the spiritual circles that I run in. And I'm like, this is profound thinking. So love that you share that with our listeners today, man. Appreciate that. Let's jump into a little bit of CFB. All right.
Yep.
I'm decked out in my amazing blue, so I'm gonna spend a little time talking about Michigan. All right. Yep. But this is gonna be a tough one for me. I mean, I got so many feelings right now about this. I'm like, so help me stay on track. Don't let me go off the rails, man. Help me stay on track. I'm gonna need you today, brother. But I got it. The more research I did, the more ticked off I got. So help me out. I'm wondering here if Michigan has a serious recruiting problem. Now, I know that there's other universities that have issues with recruiting. It's not like it's just us, but I ain't watching them. I'm watching us. So I'm talking about what I'm seeing here. Apparently, we're like second behind Georgia, but it don't feel like it sometimes. If I go back historically and look at the last 3 years alone, you know what I'm saying? We haven't had a whole lot of so-called 5-star recruits. And in the world of recruiting, stars mean something to a degree. Hold on, man. Don't jump on me just yet. Hold on. A 5-star prospect is supposed to be one of the nation's top 25, top 30 players, right? Mm-hmm. 4-star supposed to be somebody in the top 250s, 300s. But if the whole class is weak, those numbers get skewed. It almost doesn't even matter that much if you have a 5-star out of a really bad class, right? Mm-hmm. The difference or the variance between the two of them may not be that great because the class is not good.
So let me
class overall. Then somebody who's a 5-star or upper 4-star, they're a lot better. So it really kind of depends, and I get that. It's kind of
so let me interject something right there. Let me interject something right there that will actually make you more mad.
Why do you want to do that then?
Because there's something about the star system that you got to consider as well. So the star system is just like any other kind of award type thing, it's a voting style thing from writers. And there's been instances where players could buy their star ranking up because it's produced by writers. So they can be influenced. They also have carrots that can happen. So just to muddy the water a little further, there is instances where players have bought their star level up, and then at the end of the day, all the star level really does is help their preseason ranking, because after that, it's the eye test. They get out on the field and they expose themselves on whether or not they're going to make the jump to the college level anyway. So I don't care how many 5-stars you got. If they can't play once they get on the field, who cares? So I will take a whole lot of 3- and 4-star guys that have a real drive to be better because they feel like they got slighted than a bunch of 5-star guys that may or may not necessarily have the work ethic that you want to see. I'll take a lot of Rudies.
I'm totally cool with being educated on this. I'm not an expert. I've been watching college football since 1982, but I'm not an expert. So I'm totally cool with learning more stuff. But okay. Well, tell me this then. Teams like Georgia, Alabama, even Ohio State, they seem to have more of those kind of players, and they usually end up doing more with it as it pertains to playoffs and title wins and that kind of stuff. So are you saying there's no connection between the two of them? Or if you are saying that, then maybe there's hope for us. What you're saying, and I got some more questions.
So obviously there is a connection, right? Like some of these, like obviously these guys are going to be really good. They're all, they're all Americans, whatever, right? So, I mean, I'm not saying that they're not, but those particular schools that you rattled off right there have most of the national championships in the last 10 to 15 years. That is the biggest recruiting aid you could ever have, because they have all the cameras on them for the national games, because every game for them matters, because they're either the returning champion or they were 2 years removed from a champion. So all of a sudden you're looking at schools like Alabama and Clemson and Ohio State and Georgia that have all won championships in the last decade. Well, that helps the recruiting class, because if a player wants to get in and win a ring, are you going to an Alabama or a Georgia? Or are you going to Appalachian State? Like, you want a shot at a ring? Yeah, your decision for schools goes way down, because the college ranking system is this convoluted, also a voting process. It's how the Huskies missed it last year. They were ahead for that 4th spot, and then somehow, without a game being played, they became the 5th seed just randomly, and it's because it's voting, right? And so it's just kind of there's weird things about it. So I actually like that they're finally going to expand the playoff system, because at the end of the day, more of these schools need a shot, and it'll help everybody's recruiting process if it's not the same 5, 6, 7 schools that are in that Final Four every year.
Okay, that sounds like a great opportunity for all parties involved. Mm-hmm. I'm just wondering. So let me ask you a question before I go into the other part about Michigan I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So do you think that if we had the ability to close on more 5-star recruits, we always in the conversation, we have visits and we even have commitments,
mm-hmm.
and then they decommit. Usually because it's NIL or some other reason, and they decide to flip. But do you think that Michigan can take the next step if we were able to close on more 5-star recruits, or do you think that's not really a factor?
I mean, like, obviously getting 5-star recruits is helpful, but you still have 22 starters out there. So that one dude isn't necessarily going to make the difference typically.
I ain't saying just one. I'm talking about like multiple, like everybody else is getting.
Sure. Yeah. If you end up with an NFL level offensive line or something, yeah, obviously that makes a difference. But all of a sudden you're asking for a lot of 5-star recruits to step in. No, I mean, so will it help? Of course. Do I think that you're going to start to get more of those? Probably, because Michigan is easily the favorite to win the Big Ten. Easily.
I'm listening, man, but I ain't hearing the encouragement.
So
you think we can do that? Where?
So you can do it. This is your prime year for it, right? Because you have other top schools like Ohio State that are getting rookie quarterbacks in, whereas you have the best returning quarterback in your division, and or in your conference, I should say. And so I think that you guys have the clearest path this particular year to end up in that national championship title, conversation. I think you can have one of those 4 spots based on you have a high level returning quarterback. The only other team that has a similar level returning guy is Iowa, right? And it's because it was Michigan's other quarterback. So I think that you have the clear path there. Now the kid that's going into Ohio State should be interesting to watch, but again, there's always that first year going from high school to college that you're not going to probably play your best ball. Sometimes it happens, but not generally. So I think that this year is their real shot to get in that national championship. Real shot. And the thing is if you get into that Final Four position, then that starts to help your recruiting, because they're like, okay,
we've done that though, haven't we? We've done that for years. I don't think that
Yeah,
Final
you
Four
haven't done that for years. You guys haven't hardly beat Ohio State for years. Like,
what are you talking about? The last 2 years, emphatically, at least
the last 2 years you did.
Top four for as long as I can remember. We've been there. It's the other part that we can't get past.
Yeah, you guys have been.
It's easy for us. It's academic. You only lose one game every year. It's not that. It's the other part. The next part, the important part.
Yeah. No, that's what
that. How do we fix that part, man?
I mean,
I'm asking because I'm seriously trying to understand what's missing.
Well, I mean,
I looked at some of the articles. Hold on, I looked at some of the articles and stuff on this, and it's like, wow, none of this stuff is helpful. There's not one great idea in any of these stinking articles all over the whole internet. Yeah, nobody has an idea how to fix this. One year, it was the reason why it was bad because Jim Harbaugh was thinking about going to the NFL, or he was asked about it. Yeah, so that hurt recruiting. Or Sharon Moore isn't what he used to be. That hurt recruiting. And then the other two D-line coaches that weren't making friends with recruits, that hurt recruiting. I'm like, what's the actual answer here? I went to the 5-star recruiting. That was the best option out of all of these options that I had in front of me. I'm like, maybe it's that. Maybe we'll have stars at linebacker or stars at cornerback. Or what are we missing here? I mean, guys like Blake Corum were incredible for us. Marnie Bell, pre-injury, that dude was a stud for us. And then you talk about Rob Moore, David Ajabo, who I love so much. Mike Morris, DJ Turner, guys were incredible for us. But we still couldn't put that thing together. We could find stars like that, like those names, and find diamonds in the rough, but we couldn't ever put it together. I'm trying to figure out what I'm seriously asking. I wish people would help us out and offer some comments. How do we fix this? I mean, you got guys that are 5-star, like you said. Rashawn Gary was a 5-star recruit. If I'm not mistaken. 2016. Jabril Peppers, 2014. DPJ, Donovan People-Jones, 2017. Look at him playing right now. Mm-hmm. Don't look 5-star whatsoever right now. None of the three of them. Yeah. So it's like, so it can't be that. It can't just be. It got to be something else. What are we missing, man? Do you have the answer?
I mean, no. Right?
Idea?
If you make it into the Final Four, you still have to win a couple of games, right? So I mean, sometimes that just doesn't work out. I mean, look at the Bills under Jim Kelly, right? Like they went 4 times and they were a juggernaut. Like they were destroying teams. And then they get to the Super Bowl and fall flat. So, I mean, it's not necessarily that you don't have enough good players. Like sometimes you just lose a game, and football is very different than every other sport. It's one and done. So you lose, you go home.
Yeah. So it has to be something, bro. I mean, if it's not the players, okay, what is it? Because it's happening at the same time every year. That's what I'm talking about. It's happening in the same place. Sure. Even when we played TCU, it happens at the same time of year. Yep. It's not happening in the regular season. We bounce back and we win most of the games that we play, if not almost all of them. Yeah. Maybe one exception every year. We don't always go undefeated or anything, but it happens at the same time every year. Yeah. The time when it really, really matters. Why is that happening? How do you that part? Because
it just means they're the college football version of the Cowboys, right? They just can't win at the end of the
year. OMG. Just so y'all know, Bo said that, not me. I ain't trying to talk the Cowboys at all today. They're not even on my list of things to do. That's Bo. That's funny. I mean, seriously though, I mean, I seen it, and this is a basketball analogy, but I've seen it with the Knicks so many times. One of my biggest beef with them over the past maybe good 6, 7, 8 years. One of my biggest beef with them is that they struggle to make in-game adjustments. That was my biggest beef with them. Yeah. I know about shooting, defense, blah, 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 all important stuff. My biggest beef, in-game adjustments. I see that with this team, with Michigan. Yeah. They fail to adjust that. In the season, I see them do it. They might be down 17-0 in the first half. They come back. and stop a mud hole in whoever's on the field. I don't care who it is. Penn State, anybody. Run them over. So they're adjusting in game fine there.
Mm-hmm.
In the playoffs, in those games that mean a national title or not, that's when it doesn't happen. Who's that on? Is that players?
No, that's coaching.
Specific coaches. Who's that on?
That's coaching. Because coaches are the ones that have to make adjustments. Now, if there's just
what coach?
What's that? Say it again.
What coach? That's the head coach? Is that the head coach? Is that the offense? Who's that? Who's responsible for this debacle?
Well,
it's happening every year now.
Yeah, I mean, it's head coach because they have final say on everything, whether it's offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. Like if they're going to make changes or do something crazy, it's not like they're not going to tell the head coach. So the head coach has to, ultimately, when everything goes right, they get all the praise, and when everything goes wrong, they get the heat, similar to a quarterback. So it ultimately falls on Harbaugh. But I mean, at the end of the day, the rest of the year, they're extraordinarily good. So, I mean, then all of a sudden it's like when he was with San Fran, right? Like they played great through the year and then, come up just short in the playoffs. Now, granted, he made it to a Super Bowl and then, battled their way back and got really close. But, I think, unfortunately, that falls on the head coach. But,
I knew you would say that. I just didn't want to hear it.
No, I mean, but it has to, right? You're the head guy. I mean, think of it in the business world. If a company fails in whatever way, there's obviously systematic issues, but the guy that takes the fall is the CEO, right? Because he's the head of the whole thing.
It just feels as though, and things that I'm reading, they're like little small sentences, but those are the ones that has been sticking out to me. Like, wow, this is bad. Like with the young man Justin Scott, everybody was just so excited about him. Really thought he was going to commit to Michigan, and I don't know if he did and decommitted or what, but it looked like a 5-star recruit, somebody, a serious D-line guy, a monster out there.
Yeah, different.
Join our team.
Yeah,
and different make a great term there, and because of a lack of relationships is how it was worded.
Oh,
with the coaches, didn't feel as though they established a relationship with him, but other teams like OSU and another one I'm missing, OSU and maybe Bama, so established a relationship and they made it come down to those two opposed to us. I'm like, ooh, I ain't saying buying video games. Some teams are doing that kind of stuff, and it's like, keep it about football, because football is what it's all about, right?
For sure.
not couches and video games and snacks, right? It's about something else more than that, right?
Yep.
So I'm okay with Michigan having an old school approach to that, but the lack of, what does that mean? Lack of relationship. That means you must be kind of cold and standoffish. Maybe you're out of touch with the person that you're talking to. Maybe you don't see them as a person. Maybe see them as a number, as a piece.
Well,
like,
I mean,
I don't know.
I
saw it more than once. That's why I said, okay, this is something. Go ahead.
Oh, think about Harbaugh's personality, though. Think about where he's been. Like he routinely kind of rubs people wrong. Like, fantastic coach, but he kind of rubs, players, organizations. Like he kind of rubs them in a different way. He kind of has, I don't know, just a little bit of a different personality type. So I could actually see him having a hard time building relationships in the recruiting. I could actually see that. I could see that.
They're not saying him. They're talking about the D-line coaches.
Really? Oh, see, that's interesting.
They actually named them.
Wow.
Forget I remember the guy's names, but
yeah. Well, and I'm admittedly I'm not familiar with your defensive line coach, but yeah, I mean, so that's crazy. Although it is his staff, so they got to be on his level to some degree, right? Otherwise, they wear each other out.
Absolutely. I'm not caught up in the whole 5-star recruit thing so much. I mean, because you got guys like Jameis, he was considered a 5-star. Myles Garrett, Kyler Murray. I mean, honestly, I'm not super impressed with them. So it's like it's not about the 5-star. It just feels like the the organization is out of touch in some ways.
Sure.
Where we don't seem to get what's actually happening. I don't know if it's like you said, maybe just not rubbing somebody the wrong way, not thinking about them as people. I don't know, but
you know, it's
I don't
funny
know what I learned from all of this.
Even in saying that, you have the second most commits in college football. The only one that had more than Michigan was Georgia.
Yeah, I know we're number 2.
So,
and it feels that way.
So, I mean, you didn't get one 5-star guy, but you're still the second recruiting class of the year. I mean, you know, you can't be that worried about it.
I'm not. I like to see it play out on the field. That's
sure.
My concern. Those recruiting numbers don't mean anything
number
to me.
one and have them not work out. I mean,
only reason why we talking about this today on this show is because I'm crying out for help. I don't care about those. I don't care about the 5-star. I don't care about that. I'm just asking for some help here. What do you guys see? That's all I'm asking for. What do you see that I'm not seeing? Because I can't. I got so many people who are on in my Twitter friends list that are OSU fans. I can't talk to them because all they see is the ugly comments and the backhanded remarks. I don't want that today. I'm just asking, what do you see? Why can't we get past that point? I've asked about the Knicks many times. I got answered about that. Even the Giants, we had that 6, 7, 8 year stretch, hell on earth, as we know it to be. I asked about that, and I got some solid answers. But I asked about this, and I'm like, I'm getting what's missing here? That's my question. I guess we'll go ahead and move on. We got other stuff to talk about, but I just put it out there. We'll discuss it on Twitter today for sure. But let's go into some of the news topics you had, man. You had some things regarding suspension disparity in the NFL.
Yeah.
And some, So what you got, man?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, that one's interesting anyway, right? Because we got suspensions coming down, for gambling, right? Sports gambling. And if it's just on the league facility, but not on football, it's 6 games. And then if it was on football, then you're done for the year. But then you look at situations like, Alvin Kamara or Tyreek Hill, right? Where they put their hands on people, right? So Kamara was in Vegas, and then Tyreek, they got on the wrong boat, and then he put his hands on a marina worker, right? And so Kamara just pleaded no contest to, his thing. And so you look at these and you know that the league is going to be a game, maybe 2, right? Maybe. But then you look at the sports gambling and you literally placed a bet on league property. That's 6 games. It's like, okay, I feel like assault should be viewed much harsher than you made a bet on league property. Now, if you were making a bet on football, fair enough, done for the year, I get it, because that can directly affect the integrity of the game, right? Like you could be making bets and throwing games and whatever. So that totally understand, because the league has to protect the shield. I'm with it. You made a bet on league property because you were in the parking lot, and that's 6 games. That's insane to me. Especially when you figure when it comes to domestic violence or outside violence like this, it's almost nothing. I mean, the only one that was really came down hard was because the Ray Rice video was a video, and it was absurd the level it went to
everywhere.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, they couldn't even try and bury that. That was released, and it was a brutal video. So obviously that one was different, but when you look at most of these domestic violence type things, it's a game, maybe 2, whatever, it's nothing when it comes to the scheme of the players. You end up with 30 sexual assault claims against you and you get 11 games. Like, I don't know. There's a disparity there that seems messed up. And it's something that I think that the league really needs to make a shift on, because the fact that it is a game or two or whatever, obviously isn't enough of an incentive to not do it.
It's incredible, man. This is one of those topics where I don't know who even be able to pierce this today.
Oh, yeah.
It's just so much disparity in this. I mean, Josh Gordon, he got a year for a positive weed test. I don't know how many tests that was. If it was one test, incredible, and got a year suspension. You know what I'm saying? Ray Rice got 2 games, right?
Well, he
smacking his wife around, and huh?
Well, he ended up getting the indefinite because of the video.
He ended up getting the indefinite.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of the point I'm trying to go into. It seems like it takes a long time to figure out how to do the right thing.
Well, that's exactly right. Like, before the video was released, they're like, oh yeah, it's probably going to be a game or two, whatever. And then the video got released. They had to walk their stance back, and then it was an indefinite, whatever. But yeah, no, it's crazy.
Calvin really the same situation. I think his was just like that too. Mm-hmm. Bet $1,500 on 6 bets for his team. Wasn't even playing.
Yep.
Right. NFL made a determination on that without an investigation, I think, and then they had an investigation and decided to be an indefinite suspension for the rest of the 2022-2023 season. Mm-hmm. So it seems like it's just Deshaun Watson. That's another one.
Yep.
You already mentioned that 11 games, like 27, 28 alleged sexual assaults. It seems like it's just so up and down. It's like, you know what? It's like the players are making. I mean, I think you mentioned it with the substance abuse. I think they have I think their standard is like 4 games for substance abuse and like 1 game for personal conduct. I'm like, if you want to hurt yourself, it costs you more games than if you hurt somebody else. That's what you're telling me?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
what they say. 4. That's 4 to 1 ratio, right? That's what that's saying. And it tells me that the NFL really thinks about their money and their bottom line more than the players.
So
the players just been by the government. Then the NFL responds in kind after that.
Yep. And
decides to hand in. It's almost like, because the government did it, so now we feel public pressure. We have to respond.
And that's what it is.
Imagine if it didn't happen. If the government didn't levy any kind of I'm blanking out. Got ticked off on that one. The government didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Then that means the NFL probably won't do anything either.
They'll do like a 1 game to save face kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, it's no, and I mean, if you really want to have like a crazy look at how much worse the substance abuse one is, and again, like most of these guys were for weed. Like Ricky Williams ruined his whole career because of it. But
he just
but when you look at check out, I'm sure you can find the clip on YouTube. Pat McAfee got into the substance abuse program, right? For again, smoking weed. And so not only do you get, the games for the substance abuse, whatever, but then you are in their substance abuse program for like years after that. So it definitely look it up. It's Pat McAfee. Again, it'll be on YouTube, but it's an interesting clip because they almost set you up to fail their substance abuse program. They basically almost make it so you can't hardly get out of it. And that, again, more suspensions, and then of course this whole like program that you have to go through. But if you assault someone else, a couple of games, no biggie. Weird. It's weird.
I totally don't understand this. And even, we mentioned Tyreek Hill already, but we didn't even talk about the big one about the child abuse charges.
Yeah, so
and the NFL refused to suspend them. And it's like it's just a string of occurrences like this.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a history for Tyreek, right? Because he also had domestic violence against his pregnant wife, or in college, right? Now the kid one, that's a little different, and I only say that because he like broke his arm, right? Am I remembering that right?
So, that could be Adrian Peterson. I'm not sure. I don't want to say that.
I guess I don't remember, but I mean, if you're playing too rough with a toddler, like, you obviously can hurt one. There was no video. There was no way to corroborate that he was doing anything crazy. So I do get that, nothing really came of that because there was no evidence to the contrary. Right. But this one, witnesses, whatever. So, I mean, some of it, you have some legality steps that, if there's nobody that saw it and there's no, information, it's like, okay, well, there's only so much you can do. Right. But
it's just hard to understand why the NFL doesn't respond the way you would think they would. And sometimes, I mean, this is just me now. I mean, I've been a football fan. Not longer than anything. I was a baseball fan a lot longer, but I was a football fan since I was a little kid. Seriously, yeah. And it's like it just amazes me that they can't get that part right after all this time. And what we do as football fans, because you and I both love the ball, mm-hmm. we indirectly kind of support this continuing it. It's not just us. There's so many fans out here that love the sport. They go out there and paint their chest and whatnot in 30-degree weather. Yeah. Idiots. But yeah. I mean, and they go out there and they buy all the concessions and stuff, and they got their houses painted in their team colors, all kind of nonsense. But I mean, and drive around with cars with the logos. I mean, they just support this constant. It's like, are we helping? Are we helping this continue to go on, or just separate? Because it just kind of feels like we're kind of like co-conspirators to some degree. Because if we say, you know what, we ain't having this, we ain't gonna watch this. We ain't gonna come out here and support this until you fix this problem. Yeah, I really believe in the power of one. I believe if we did that, they respond to public pressure really well, but that's how they make decisions. They don't do anything before that happens. It seems like, but
yeah, I mean, like, if you could get people on board for it, maybe, but I mean, there's no way that you could get enough people to act to really move the needle. And that's true on most fronts, really. But yeah, I mean, obviously we're all, indirectly, co-conspirators in that way, because we watch the sport, we buy the things. Like, yeah, it's a fair assessment for sure. Fair enough. But I mean, it seems like in-house, you would be like, because I understand there's the NFLPA, and there's precedents that have already been set, and so they kind of base it off of those things. But I think it's on some level, I think the league and the NFLPA need to be able to come together a little bit and be like, look, this is a problem that our sport has, and we're spending so much more money apologizing for these guys than if we just reevaluate the precedent that's been set and maybe reset that bar so that there's a little more pressure to not put yourself in those situations.
Fair enough. All right, a couple of rapid fire questions for you, and then we get into our final question for the show. Today's going to be the day that is the deadline for the New York Football Giants and Saquon Barkley to come to some kind of deal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I heard right, today is Monday, right?
It is Monday.
The deadline. What do you think, man? Does it happen or not? And should it happen?
So I don't think it happens. I think he basically has to play under the tag. So
$14 million.
I think it'll be.
You think he would take it?
What's that? Sorry, I missed you there.
Take $14 million if they offer that. Do you think he would take $14 million if they offer that?
So it sounded like that was part of the
same money I think he had on the table originally before.
Yeah, so I think that was the offer. I think it was the guaranteed money that he didn't like. So the offer was there, but I think the guarantee was lower than what he wanted. So I don't think he does. I don't know that he necessarily sits. I think it'd be bad for his career to sit. I I really think that it puts him in a situation that kind of mirrors what Le'Veon Bell did, where he essentially forced himself off of a team that was pretty solid, and ultimately, he sat out the year, and then he was just never that same guy. Like, it really hurt his career. And I think that you're kind of running into a situation where you got to look at the way the league is viewing your position. It's a reason why there's top backs that still aren't on teams, because they're just not paying for that position. It's why the Bengals running back, I'm mind blanking his name at the moment.
Joe Mixon.
Yes. So he just took a pay cut to stay on the team, right? So, I mean, if you're looking at the landscape of the NFL right now and the way that teams are viewing even top running backs, like they couldn't trade Derrick Henry, one of the most dominant running backs in the league. I mean, he was leading for the rushing title before he got hurt, and it took other players 6 weeks to catch him. I mean, and then he still finished in the top 10. He missed half the year. Like, the dude is unreal, and they still couldn't find a trade partner for him. So if you're trying to like be a real stickler over a couple of $1 million, you may find yourself on the outside looking in, because if a team is going to sign you after the fact, you're not going to make as much money. The season's already going. So it's one of those, I feel like you're, throwing away a dollar to save a penny. It just sort of, I feel like at this point, even if you weren't going to sign a new contract, play under the tag, but play, because, it's one of those, you need that tape. If you want someone else to potentially pick you up the next year, you got to be smart about your career, because you may give up the 14 mil that you were going to get, and then you may just never land another contract. So, especially because a guy like Saquon has had an injury history. So even though he came out and balled out last year, the year before he didn't, the year before that he didn't, right? Like, he's been injured. So some of those things, I think you have to be a little bit smarter as a businessman. Obviously that is asking a lot of a lot of these players that, are young and, kind of view things in the way of, I'm going to be able to play forever. Because if you ask any player at the beginning of their career, they think they're going to play a long time. And that's not always true.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of running backs that have injury histories, even Dalvin Cook, does he have a job yet?
He doesn't. Yeah, he's not on.
Speaks to what you were saying. It's pretty hard out there, huh?
And what, Chubb wants to be on a different team so that he can be the featured back. Nobody's made a play for him. He's still tandem back with Kareem Hunt.
He should be good now because Kareem Hunt's a free agent.
He's still on the team.
A free agent, so you should be good now. Now you're a feature back now.
Yeah,
I can't see them bringing anybody else in to take his place.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
I doubt Kareem Hunt's going back to the Browns. I just don't see it. I don't see it. So
I mean,
he has what he wants now.
That's the thing. It's just like, there's just not a huge market for running backs currently. They're just viewed differently. Or if it's going to be a running back, they want it to be the Christian McCaffreys, where they are an extraordinarily athletic, really good hands.
Massive injury history with him too.
No, there is, but he's viewed differently because of everything he can do outside of the backfield. Whereas these guys that are true running backs, like a Saquon and a Derrick Henry, those guys are viewed different because although they can catch the ball, they're not dynamic with the ball in their hand like a CMC, right? Which is why he'll get more opportunities even with the same amount of injuries, because he's just a more versatile player. And the league is really going that way because of how many different receiving type schemes come out of the backfield.
All right. So final thoughts about D-Hop to the Titans. Matter of fact, I don't know how long it was going on, but I found out about real late, I think.
Yeah.
Really busy this weekend. I missed it.
I mean, that's just
thoughts. He had the Pats and the Titans as his options, I guess. His best options. He picked the Titans. What do you think?
Did you say he's going to the Titans?
No, it's done.
Oh, it's done. Oh, I missed that. So I was gone all weekend, so I didn't see that. So he's headed to the Titans
yesterday.
Oh, he's headed to the Titans. That's
honestly, I had a lot of questions about that. I don't think we have no showtime for that. But I was just kind of wondering, like, wow.
So that is
the option that you had. I mean, the passing the Titans shouldn't have been the only option, but I mean, there's a lot of wide receiver needs out there beside those two, but those are the two that were the so-called the narrowest choices, and you picked the Titans.
So that'll help the Titans.
Duh. Yeah, I get that part.
No, but, like that'll be a huge help. And why I say that is because Tannehill didn't have anybody he was throwing to. Plus, he was super inaccurate. So, yeah, people were stopping Henry because you could throw 8 in the box because you knew it was a running play 85% of the time. So now if you have somebody like a D-Hop who can catch a pass that's not on target, then then all of a sudden that does take some pressure off of Derrick Henry and be able to bust some of those runs back out. I think that's probably
positive.
What's that?
I'm not as positive as you are about this.
I'm not saying they're going to be great, but I think that's a better fit for him than the Patriots would have been.
I think that's something that we need to break down perhaps next Monday. Write that down the list. I don't think I agree with that at all. I mean, he's definitely the best wide receiver on the team now, clearly.
For sure.
He's the number one de facto, so he's going to get a lot of the throws. But look at the guys that are alongside it. That's kind of important too. And I'm taking Seattle out of this because I like Tyler Lockett a lot, so I'm not going to say that. But when DJ Metcalf was the guy, and I think Lockett was out injured, something happened with that where he wasn't there, and it was all on DJ or DK, excuse me. And they keyed in on him. They had to move the ball to somebody else. There was a guy that stepped up, but he wasn't
Goodwin,
a main guy. No, it wasn't him, but somebody else. Another guy. I kept hearing his name so much. You should know this, man. It's your team. But it's like, this another guy. He did all right, but you could tell there was an impact because everybody keyed in on the main guy and nobody else could pick up the slack. That's what's going to happen with this situation, in my opinion. The other guy was Irvine, whatever his name is. He ain't it, man. So it locked down D-Hop. What's going to happen then? Tannehill already got issues as it is with accuracy, like you said, decision making and whatever, and maybe even mobility to a degree, I guess. But there's going to be a problem there with the pass. I felt like it was like they got other young receivers that they didn't suck. They just I like them better than the Titans wide receivers. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, I like them better as a whole. Then they ain't world beaters, but I mean, the Packers did what they did. If it wasn't for them, they wouldn't even had that great of a record.
I think some of it is the Patriots aren't going to do anything in that division. So he's late.
Aaron Rodgers, man.
I'm talking about the whole division, man. I'm talking about the whole division is better than the Patriots. So if as late in your career as you are with D-Hop, he wants to go somewhere that at least has a shot to get into the playoffs. And the Titans have that.
The Jaguars are going to be monstrous. You sure?
Sure. Well, I don't think they're going to win the division, but they could definitely get in as a potential wild card. Whereas the Patriots are going to be on the outside looking in. Like they're not getting a wild card spot. They're not getting out of that division.
Boy, it's going to be fun next Monday. Where I'm letting this look. But let's go ahead and jump off, man. But for all you guys listening to our show and supporting us, Football Talk with Bo, and they call me Mr. U. We thank you so much again for joining us. Make us a part of your day, your morning, your week. We're your weekly mirror check before you change the world. Thank you again for joining us. Have a great day, great week. Check us out on Twitter at Football Talk WBO and at They Call Me MRYU. Love you guys. Have a great day. Coach out.
Have a great one, everyone.